Asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Welcome back, and I hope you all had a nice meal. I did. The subject this afternoon is quite different from what we did yesterday and this morning. This is the way of love, the way of devotion, the way of what is called Bhakti, devotion to God, faith in God. It's a God-centric approach. One might think, what other kind of approach is there? It sounds very bad to say a self-centric approach. So there are these two approaches, a God-centric approach, a God-based spirituality, or a self-inquiry based spirituality. Spiritually based on the question, who am I or what am I? One kind of spirituality which is a search for God. Like Vivekananda, he went around in Calcutta in the late 19th century asking people, have you seen God? So that's a search for God. We hear that there is God, the creator of the universe, omnipresent, omnipotent, all-powerful, all-loving, all-good. And if one would but find God, whatever that finding means, that would be a real step forward in spiritual life. That would be a solution to our problems. So that's a God-centric approach. There are religions which are God-centric. In the West, people are used only to God-centric religions until recently, until the arrival of Buddhism and others. So Christianity is God-centric. It's centered around God. Judaism is God-centric. Islam is God-centric. And there are multiple God-centric approaches in Hinduism. We just heard the beautiful song to Durga, God as Mother, the Divine Mother of the universe. Jagadambe means Mother of the universe. So we salute thee, Durga, O Mother of the universe, O Mother of all. That's a God-centric approach. There God is God as Mother. Shaivism, God-centric approach. Vaishnavism, centered around Vishnu, God-centric approach. All the avatars of Vishnu, Rama, Krishna and many others. We also hold Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna to be an avatar in this age. So these are all God-centric approaches. But these are not the only kind of religion there is. In India, from most ancient times, it was well known and understood and quite obvious there were other kinds of approaches, which are also spiritual, which are also religious, but they are not centered around God. For example, most well known, now it is, people know it here in the West also, that which comes to the mind is Buddhism. Buddhists don't believe in God. Either Buddhist thinkers, philosophers will refute the existence of God, or they may be agnostic about it. But it's not about God. What is it about then? It's an inquiry into ourselves. Through meditation and philosophy, an inquiry into ourselves. And thereby hoping to attain release, freedom from bondage, freedom from suffering. We also know there is Jainism, another religion not so well known outside India, but that also is not God-centric. There is no God in Jainism. Then within Hinduism also, there are traditions which are not God-centric. For example, I mentioned the ancient philosophy of Sankhya, which is within the folds of Orthodox Hinduism. They don't talk about God. They just talk about consciousness and matter, Prakriti and Purusha. So these two approaches are there. You notice I have carefully not mentioned Advaita Vedanta, Advaita so far. Is it a God-centric? Most people will immediately think, based on what we know and have studied, it's about self-inquiry. So it must be a self-inquiry based method, like Buddhism, for example. Not quite. The beauty of Advaita is, notice the teaching, Tat Tvamasi, you are that. You are that. There are two terms here, that and you. And if you probe into those two terms, on one hand is the inquiry into you, into ourselves. Who am I or what am I? That's the self-inquiry part. But that is also there. Tat. The word tat literally means that. What does that mean? In the context, if you look at it, where does this sentence come from? That thou art, tat tvamasi. It has come from the Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter. 9 times it has been repeated. O Shvetaketu, the boy who is being taught. Tat tvamasi, you are that. And what is that? Tat sat. That reality from which the world has emerged. The creator of this universe. What we would in today call God. God. So, Advaita Vedanta is both self-inquiry based and God based. People ask, when Shankara was teaching Advaita Vedanta to Shankara and his followers 1300 years ago, the orthodox Hindus ask, do these fellows believe in God at all? Are they atheists? You fellows, do you go to temples? Do you bow down before Vishnu, Shiva, Devi? Do you take the holy bath in the Ganges? Do you go on pilgrimage to various pilgrimage spots? Do you believe in God? Are you God-believing people, or what kind of weird folk are you? And we had to reply. Shankara and his followers had to reply, Baba, yes, my dear fellows, we believe in God. We certainly believe in God. We believe in God as much as you do, as the dualists do, as the devotees of God do, as the worshippers of Vishnu or Shiva or Devi do. Only thing is that they will accuse us of saying, yeah, but you say that there is some reality beyond God. Right? God is not the ultimate reality. There is something beyond God. And we reply, that's none of your business. Yeah? You are interested in God, and to the extent that you believe in God, we also believe in God. You should be satisfied with that. Don't probe any further. We get into trouble. So, Advaita Vedanta, traditional Advaita Vedanta, classical Advaita Vedanta, it certainly accepts God. The terms used are Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman. Nirguna Brahma is the attributeless Brahman, pure being, existence, consciousness, bliss, which we have been talking about yesterday. That which cannot be talked about, we talked about for hours and hours yesterday, today in the morning. That's Nirguna Brahma, pure being. And there you can say, I am that. And the goal of Vedanta is Advaita Vedanta is to show you, you are that. However, Vedanta also talks about, equally if not more, about Saguna Brahman. Okay. Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman is the Brahman with attributes, with qualities. The Brahman which creates, preserves and destroys the universe. The Brahman which is all-pervasive, all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. So all the omnis. So that Brahman also, Vedanta equally talks about it. In many of the Upanishads, this is mentioned. So Vedanta does not really disbelieve in God. We are not atheists. We are not even agnostics. We are firmly convinced, yes, the God of religion, what religion talks about, that God does exist. And we fully affirm it. Everything that dualistic religion, devotional religions, God-believing religions, what they talk about, what they claim, all of that, we give tick marks on that. You say, yes, yes, yes. You might say, that sounds like there is a but there somewhere. There is a fine print which says that, yes, 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 but it's all part of a movie. But, alright, let's keep it there. There are teachers of non-dual Vedanta, especially today, and especially in USA, especially in California. That kind of Vedanta, there is a kind of Vedanta there, where they teach what might be called the direct path, no reference to God as such. You are that, you realize it, and that's done. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but we'll see what the problem with that is. Why God is necessary. We can think about God, that's a relief, I'm still necessary. Thank you, I'm necessary. In Advaita Vedanta, first of all, we say that by the grace of God alone you come to non-duality. One of the most radical texts of Advaita Vedanta is called the Avadhuta Gita, which talks about radical non-duality, that you are the non-dual Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss, immortal, ever shining. Right now, you always there, you are, and you are choicelessly so, no matter what you think or what you believe. One monk in the Himalayas, when I was there, he used to teach a similar book called the Ashtavakra. And sometimes he would look at us and say in Hindi to the assembled monks at his feet, "Oh monks, whether you believe it or not, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, you are Ram." They were singing Jai Ram, Shri Ram. You are Ram. Tum jano ya na jano, mano ya na mano, tum hi Ram. This is Advaita Vedanta. Now, the Avadhuta Gita says, Ishvara anugrahadeva punsam advaita vasana. It is by the special grace of God, Ishvara, God, that the people get a desire, a liking, a taste for non-duality, for this direct path to enlightenment. Even that liking, that you begin to get it, you begin to enjoy it, you begin to see what it's all about. That is also the grace of God. We are not denying the grace of God. It is by the grace of God that one gets the Guru. It's by the grace of God that one gets the scriptures, Vedanta, the opportunity to study and listen. You know that you've already got the grace of God. When you have an interest in Vedanta, teachers, books, talks, classes, a desire to practice. Now the but. What happens is that we come up against a problem. After some time, we'll all come up on this path. We will all become cognizant, aware of this problem. It doesn't seem to work. I'm still, as the Americans say, I'm still the same dude. I don't seem to have changed. And what was promised, limitless fulfillment, transcendence of suffering, doesn't seem to be happening. I still seem to be vulnerable to the world, and I still seem to be quite unfulfilled. I get it, it's a very nice, cool philosophy, and good to know such stuff. But what about the result? It was supposed to be spiritual, it was supposed to transform me into a saint. And quite far from that. What's happening? What's going wrong? What's going wrong is what is known in Vedanta as the Fourfold qualifications. All traditional Vedanta classes will start with Fourfold qualifications. In Sanskrit, sadhana chatushtaya. There's a saying, the sentence is, sadhana chatushtaya sampanna pramata adhikari. The inquirer, the student, equipped with the Fourfold qualifications, is qualified for Vedanta. What do you mean qualified? What are the Fourfold qualifications? We'll see. But what do you mean qualified? If we have these qualifications, we'll not only get Vedanta, but Vedanta will come alive for us and work for us and take us to spiritual development and eventual liberation. It will. If we fall short on those initial conditions, on the ask, before we enter, then what will happen is, we'll come to the same classes, we'll read the same texts. We may even come to a similar understanding. But we will be left with the feeling, I learned a nice philosophy, that's all. It didn't change my life. I don't really think I'm enlightened. What are these Fourfold qualifications? Vedanta students, we have heard of it again and again. I'll just run through the list. It's quite a formidable list. Viveka, Vairagya. Viveka means that the discrimination or the discernment of the eternal from the non-eternal. Most of our books written by these early Swamis who translated these books into English, they translated Viveka as discrimination. But it's a bad word now. Vedanta tells you must discriminate. No, I won't. It means discernment, separating two. The eternal from the non-eternal. That the world is non-eternal. Whatever I do in this world, and Vivekananda says, saints die, sinners die, kings die, and paupers die, the learned die, and the ignorant die. Death comes to all. Everything is evanescent. Everything is temporary. And there is an eternal reality. a transcendent reality, a real reality, if you will. Call it God, Brahman, Atman, whatever you want to call it. There is a spiritual reality. This insight, going into spiritual life, this clarity, this is called Viveka. Viveka literally means to separate two things. To separate two things. We all have a little bit of that intuition, otherwise you wouldn't be here on a perfectly nice Sunday afternoon. Why would you be listening to an archaic, old Eastern philosophy now? It's because we all have a sense of the spiritual, and we are spiritual seekers therefore. So we have some of that. Second, Vairagya, dispassion. A dispassion for the non-eternal, for the worldly, for the temporal. It is not for me. I have seen enough of that. Americans say, been there, done that. Now the spiritual life calls to me. So turning towards spiritual life, Sri Ramakrishna would put it this way in Bengali. He said, Vishaya Virag Ishwarya Anurag. A dispassion for worldliness, for worldly things, worldly activities, worldly people, and a pull, a love, a pull, a desire for the spiritual, for God. This is called Vairagya, dispassion. And then third, so we have already two. Third, discipline. Sixfold treasure. It's called a sixfold treasure. When you walk and go for a journey, you need money with you. So sixfold treasure. What is the treasure that you need on this journey? Sixfold. What are the six? Shamaha, which means quietude of the mind, a control of the mind, cessation of wild and impetuous thinking, impulsive thinking. Quiet, control the mind, steady mind. Second, Dhamma, control of the senses, of the body. Just because you have feet doesn't mean you have to go on a trip. Just because you have hands doesn't mean you have to grab whatever comes your way. Just because I have a tongue doesn't mean I have to taste all kinds of food, or I have eyes, I have to see all the movies that are there in the world. No. Control of the senses. Pull back. Third, titiksha, which is, literally it means resilience or fortitude. A kind of spiritual toughness, that this is my goal in life. No matter what, illness, poverty, obstructions from others, I will pursue God realization. I will pursue self-realization. I will pursue enlightenment. I will pursue the spiritual life. Right here you have a strong tradition of saints, of Catholic saints, spiritual seekers. Look at their lives, especially the more ancient ones. What hard lives. We went to St. Patrick's Cathedral, both the Catholic one and the older one. They were saying it's been there continuously. Some cathedral there or the other, some church in that spot for nearly 1400 years. There, or 1300 years on that spot. And the little bit of stories of the early monks, the monks and nuns, what hardship they had to endure. They didn't endure hardship for the sake of hardship. They endured hardship for the sake of God. It's not a pointless exercise. Just toughening you up. No. You're bearing that so that your mind is focused on God. Putting up with all obstacles, not letting go of the goal. I mean, just think about it. How much trouble you put up to hold on to a job. How much trouble you put up over years and decades to raise a family. You put up with so much. With a fraction of that trouble, you can become enlightened. You can realize God. And the trouble will seem no trouble at all. When you are doing it for spiritual realization, it's a joy. Someone might say, Swami, you don't know the joy of raising a family. You're a monk. So I put up with a lot of trouble. I don't think it's trouble. It's a joy to raise a family. Precisely. So when you put up with trouble in life, but you pursue spirituality, it's a joy. And why this is said is, because often spirituality gets the bottom rank of everything else. I'm not feeling too good today. So I won't meditate today, I won't study today, let me relax. You don't do that for jobs. I'm feeling a little under the weather, I won't turn up for work today. You can't, you'll get fired. Have you picked up the kids from school today? No, I pick them up every day. Let them remain in school today. The grounds for divorce. Even before divorce. I saw the news today. This mom in Ireland, somewhere in Ireland, she was arrested because her little son walked for, as she said, less than a mile from school or somewhere, at home, came home. And the police came and arrested her for reckless behavior. So, how much trouble you put up? For money, for children. With far less than that, you can become enlightened. Titiksha, spiritual toughness, fortitude, resilience. Then, uparati, withdrawal. People say, when I become more and more interested in spirituality, in meditation, in Vedanta, I'm losing motivation in the job. Is that bad? People get worried, anxious. I'm not so worried about the job. That's good. A little less involvement. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Do enough to keep the structure of your life. You need to feed yourself, clothe yourself, hold on to a house, take care of a family. That's it. Simple living. Now, don't keep pushing worldly expectations sky high. There's no end to that rat race. And they say that even if you win the rat race, you'll still be a rat. So, at one point one must realize, withdraw a little bit. Enough of parties, enough of vacations, enough of shopping trips. Stop. So then the next is uparati, then samahana, focus on your spiritual life. When you have withdrawn a little bit from external activities, then you have time and energy, you clear the decks for action, give time and energy to spiritual life, to meditation, to study, prayer, whatever it is. And then the next one would be Shraddha, a faith in the teachings, in the teacher, until you see for yourself. When you no longer, it's not a question of faith anymore. Shraddha is what? Shraddha is faith. Respect, faith, which sustains us until you see for yourself. Once you see for yourself, that Shraddha becomes Nishtha. Nishtha means, literally it means dedication or sticking to it. That I believe it. I think you're right when you say I am Brahman, there is an ultimate reality. I guess you're right. I sort of believe it. I don't understand it yet. I don't see for myself. So on this belief I'm running. That's the fuel in my tank. But the moment I begin to see very soon for myself, yes, this is right. Then you don't call it faith anymore. You call it dedication. Now I see for myself, I'll stick to it. Is it very hot in here? It's getting a little warm?
It's actually a bit warm, yeah.
Yeah, I can open the windows for a while, let it cool down, and then we can get back to it. Because the warmth is, people get cozy and then fall asleep. Yes. So let the air come in a little bit. Then the fourth one is mumukshutva, intense desire for freedom. So we have a list. Fourfold qualifications: viveka, discernment, vairagya, dispassion, sixfold treasure. The six have been packed into one. A little bit of cheating there. And then intense desire for freedom. Fourfold qualifications. If we have them, we all have them to a certain extent. Otherwise we wouldn't be here, sitting and just listening patiently. Ask a bunch of kindergarten kids to come and sit for hours and hours and listen to lectures on Maya. They won't. So clearly we are in some respects and more advanced than the kindergarten kids. So, we have some of these qualifications, but maybe not enough. It's required to a high level of excellence. Now, this is the problem in non-duality. If a person is prepared, the non-dual teachings take hold very quickly and becomes very clear to you immediately, and you proceed very fast. It is the direct path, there's no doubt about it. It's brilliant. Except that, like all things for brilliant people, there is a cutoff. It's a kind of Ivy League spirituality. I'm using the terms, but I mean. One problem that comes in the non-dual path is the problem of desire. There is no polite way of putting this, I'll put it bluntly. Initially, before enlightenment, the teachings of non-duality take hold here, intellect. We understand it. We try to understand it. But desire does not dwell in the intellect. Desire dwells in the heart. Desire is of the form, I want X, Y, Z. Now what happens is, if we don't have the purity of the mind, the initial qualifications, fourfold qualifications, there are still unresolved complexes, desires, negativities, all of these are there in the mind. Things we want in the world, our unhappinesses with the world, our grudges and depressions, or anxieties, all of that. You're saying that shouldn't it be there? Think about it. When we say dispassion for the world, if you truly have dispassion for the world, most of it will go away. Your attitude will be, I don't care. I do not care. I remember there was this monk when I was there in the Himalayas, a very radical non-dualist monk. And he would stay by himself, beg for his food twice a day, very well learned in Vedanta, a very courageous, strong kind of person. Now, monks also gossip, okay, there's a lot. So 2 monks came to him, to this monk, and said to him that, do you know in that ashram what they are saying about you, Swami? Gossip. And this Swami said, look at the reply. He said, it's all true. But you haven't heard what they say. I don't need to. Whatever they have said, everything is true. I'm giving you a blank check. I don't need to hear it. Oh, you're getting angry. The discussion was in Hindi. In Hindi they said, Sab sach. It's all true. Why can he say that? Because he doesn't care. Now we can't be all that, I don't care. You can't go for your annual review to your boss and say, I don't care. These are the complaints against you from your colleagues and co-workers. It's all true. No, he can afford to say that because he lives by himself in a cave or in a hut in the Himalayas. I've seen a tiny little, the whole hut is less smaller than this. Perched on a precipice with a several 100-foot drop into the Ganga below, surrounded by mountains and glaciers. And he goes, magnificent. It's like an eagle's nest. and he lives by begging his food. So he doesn't really care about anybody. That's easy for him. But internally we must have that attitude. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. Therefore, what is said in the path of knowledge, bhakti, devotion to God, is necessary. In the path of knowledge, faith in God, devotion to God, surrender to God, prayer to God. This thing which is a huge obstacle to my enlightenment, my conditionings, my bad karma, my negativity, my bundle of desires I cannot get rid of. To purify this is beyond my capacity. Oh Lord, please do thou help me. Surrender to the Lord. I remember one monk to whom I used to go in the foothills of the Himalayas in Haridwar to learn from him, a traditional wandering monk. He has passed away now. His name was Ramananda Saraswati. So, a young monk came to him, bowed down, and he had just taken the vows of monasticism. So this young monk asked this teacher, now I have become a sannyasi. A monk. What should I do now to become enlightened? So this very revered teacher of non-duality, of Advaita Vedanta, he said, I'll tell you in English and then tell you the original Hindi which he said. It's very touching, homely kind of Hindi, rural, rustic Hindi. What he said was this. You become a monk, what else will you do? If you can, fall at the feet of the Lord and weep twice a day. In Hindi he said, क्या और करोगे? कर सको तो दिन में 2 बार प्रभु के चरण पकड़ के रो ले. Weep at the feet of the Lord. That was what he means by, he didn't explain any further. What he means by that, the tears wash away. Sincere crying before the Lord, they wash away. Then they invite the grace of God. God cannot resist the tears of a devotee. If you say, I love God and I weep for you, remember, that's the most powerful spiritual practice. Your success is guaranteed. All the rest, the delay is because of our recalcitrant nature. Because we kick up, we make trouble so much. But otherwise, If you have wept, God has taken charge of your life. And God will help you. Even if you let go, I'm telling you this, even if you let go of God, God will not let go. Because you have taken refuge in Him. We may fail 1,000 times, He never fails, unfailingly. You have asked sincerely, with tears in your eyes. I am telling you this with all the conviction in my heart. Do so privately, and God will take charge and help you out. The more troublesome we are, the more lives it may take. The more we cooperate with the Lord, the faster and quicker it will be. So that is why Bhakti is recommended. Devotion, love of God, surrender is recommended even on the path of Advaita Vedanta, on the path of self-knowledge, where the goal is to realize I am Brahman, and the method is inquiry, what we did yesterday. What do we do there? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. You listen, you study, you reason, and meditate on the clarity so gained. That's the method. God doesn't seem to be involved anywhere. But the help of God is always invoked. Alright, I just remembered. This monk I mentioned, who said, it's all true. I'll tell you something about him. I don't know, some of you may have heard a story which became famous. I told it about 10 years ago and it's on YouTube. The story of the Emperor Janaka. Yes, Sat, ya wo Sat. Is this true or is that? Some of you have heard. How many of you have heard the story? So many! Oh my God. This monk told me. Then you'll be interested in knowing the origins of the story. So after begging for our food, eating, and then we would go for long walks in the forest above Gangotri. And he would tell me stuff. Someday it would be some philosophical point, someday a story. So two stories I remember. One of this was this story. The story of the Emperor Janaka. Is this true or is that true? Very interesting man. His name was Narayanandagiri. I don't know if he's still alive. Very dramatic kind of, wonderful kind of man. And very good company. But he would say to me in Hindi, Are Swamiji, hum to Adha Nastik hai. He said, Oh Swami, I am half an atheist. I am halfway to atheism. This Swami, this monk, who on the face of it would be so radically non-dualist, hardly ever talk about God, and would say that I am an atheist, or halfway to an atheism. One day I went into his cottage unannounced in the afternoon, because I think I was going to take leave of the place and return, so I wanted to say goodbye to him before I returned. And you know what I saw? I can still remember, I was startled. I entered, the door was open, so I opened the door, this little bit cottage. I opened the door, stepped in from there. He was sitting on a bed overlooking the window from which you could see a most dramatic view of the sheer drop to the Ganga. Sitting like this, covered with a blanket like this, doing japa. He had his rosary in hand and repeating. I quietly stepped out. Then another monk I had met, I asked him, this Swami, he claims to be half an atheist, halfway to atheism. But I saw him, he is repeating the name of God. He is doing japa. Japa is repeating the name of God. And this other Swami, who was a Punjabi, old Punjabi monk, he told me in Hindi, Are wo to chupa Rustam hai. Very difficult to translate it in English. It means Rustam is an expert or a master. So he's a hidden master, a secret master. There is a secret side to it. Swami Vivekananda would say, people thought of him as a great philosopher, non-dualist. He says, you see, I am jnana on the outside. Outside I am knowledge, philosophy, non-duality. Inside, he says, my heart is as soft as a woman's heart. It's full of love, it is soft. There is devotion inside, love inside. And then he talked about Sri Ramakrishna, whom everybody knows as this ecstatic devotee, child of Kali. So, we devoted for him, everything was Kali, the mother of the universe. About him, Swami Vivekananda says, he was devotion on the outside. Inside, he was all jnana, he was all knowledge, all non-duality, on the inside. Jung was right that way. We have polar opposites, something that we have outside, and we have what a person does not seem to be, it's there, buried in that person. Okay. So devotion is highly recommended for the person on the path of non-duality. Why? If by the grace of God, the enormous obstacles to translating non-duality into practice are overcome. But this is not what we are talking about today. This is devotion, bhakti on the path of non-duality, as an aid to non-duality, as a support for non-duality. One great monk, Raman Saraswati, whom I mentioned, he said, practice of bhakti, devotion, faith and surrender in God is always helpful for the non-dualist. Jnani ke liye bhakti is always helpful, always highly recommended. Not so the other way around. For the person on the path of devotion, you need not cultivate the path of knowledge. But the path of devotion is very good, very helpful, very wholesome. I personally remember I was committed I still am in some senses, committed non-dualist. I went to Gangotri, my favorite book, Ashtavakra Gita, with that one book. And there was this monk staying next to my cottage, very senior, old monk. He was the sevak of a very great Advaita teacher. Some of you may have heard of Tapovan Maharaj, who was the teacher of Chinmayanandaji. This Swami who I met was the sevak, the attendant of Tapovan Maharaj. His name was Sundarananda. He lived just in the cottage next to which I was living. He asked me, so young monk, what are you studying these days? And I showed him Ashtavakra. He said, that's good, but wait. And then he went into his cottage and came out with another book, The 1,000 Names of Vishnu. Vishnu Sahasranama, an explanation of that. It's a sort of devotional book. All the stories about Vishnu, it's very devotional. He said, read this also, the two of them together. And he said something strange afterwards. He said in Hindi, Nahi to akela panchuvega. Loneliness will bite you. Staying alone in those Himalayan heights, and only with the austere philosophy of Ashtavakra as your companion, you are inviting mental trouble. Yes. So Advaita Vedanta can seem very demanding. It's not so demanding when you're trying to understand it, read it, listen to YouTube lectures. It's fine, it's cool, it's inspiring. But when you start taking it out for a spin, as Americans say, somebody's given you a fancy new car. Now let me take it out for a spin. Beware before you take a Ferrari out for a spin. Unless you know how to drive very well, you're inviting a crash. Many people say, I got it, Swami, all those lectures on Vedanta, I understood what you're saying. Now, how do I practice it? How do I live it? I said, don't. Don't. Stay with it until it becomes a fact for you. Then you cannot help but living it. But when I feel duality is a fact, I am the body, this is the world apart from me, I am this tiny biological creature, social creature, economic creature. And then I try to practice, I am all-pervading Brahman. Won't work. Won't work. An idea and what seems to be practical reality, the idea cannot cut your sense of practical reality. Only the sense of reality can cut another sense of reality. Directly we must see for ourselves. Then it will become a fact, then you live it automatically. You can't help living it. But initially don't run. So, now in contrast there is, switching tracks. There is the path of bhakti itself. No longer on the path of knowledge. Path of bhakti itself. Remember, we are switching tracks but not switching goals. Both will take us to the same reality. That was the beauty of Sri Ramakrishna's teaching. Whichever path you take up, path of mystical experience, yoga, the path of good works and service and righteousness in this world, the path of devotion and surrender and love to God, the path of self-inquiry, all of these paths sincerely followed, they will take you to the goal. You will touch the reality. Now we are on the path of devotion. What I mean by that is, apart from the school of Advaita Vedanta, every other school of Vedanta is a path of love. Shuddhadvaita, Dvaitadvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, Achintya Bheda. They are all paths of bhakti. What do I mean by paths of bhakti? All sorts of practices are there, but bhakti is supreme. Devotion is supreme. Love of God is supreme in all of these paths. What's the advantage? There are numerous advantages. When you enter the gates of Advaita, non-duality, what is the ask? Fourfold qualification. When you enter the gates of Bhakti, what is the ask? Nothing. Just come. Just come. We have so many things which we want and love in this world. You make a list of my wants. Amazon shopping basket. Advaita will say, dispassion, get rid of it, empty the basket. Come to class. That's why the Advaita traditions were severely monastic. Even if you are not externally a monk, internally you have to become monk-like. There is no leeway there. You have to step away from worldliness. One monk warned me once, a senior monk of our order. He said, we had a great monk in our order, Swami Sarvapriyananda. He was in Kerala many years ago, long before my time. And that monk told me that what you talk about, what you like, this non-dual path, he would say these same things. He believed in it and he practiced it. But then this monk told me, but you know one thing about him we noticed, we who have seen him. He was an extremely pure man. He was practically already a saint when he began. So these things which you are talking about are all true. They will all work. But what they want from you, the beginning itself is a bit too much for most people. Whereas in Bhakti, just come. You have all the things that you are doing. Don't have to empty your Amazon shopping cart. Just add one more item to your Amazon shopping cart. God. Add God there. Add just God. Bring God into your life. I like this. There is an old saying in the Bhakti traditions. What is Bhakti? Love of God like? Bhikshu pada prasarana nyaya. The monk stretching out his legs. So a wandering, begging monk comes to your house and says, can you give me a corner to stay? Maybe your garage is empty or something. He says, okay, just take that place, you can stay. And he cleans it up and stays there. Next morning you find another corner of the garage has been cleaned up and his little Krishna deity has been put there. Because for Krishna you need a separate spot, a nice spot. So he's cleaned it up. And you find all the fresh flowers of your garden have been plucked already. And then you find he's gotten into your kitchen and then he's blocked up an area of your kitchen. This is only for cooking prasad, bhoga for Krishna, sacred offerings for Krishna. And no, you can't have breakfast. First Krishna has to be offered, then only the sacred food. Yes. In this way, within a few days, he's taken over your life. So this is the monk stretching out his legs. Beware of inviting a monk to your house. Now this is a great blessing. This is the great blessing of Bhakti. You invite Bhakti, love of God into your life, it will take over, transform and bless your whole life. It's so restrictive. I can't have breakfast before offering food to God. What else would you have done instead? When you have these rites, rituals, pujas, chanting, this offering, that offering, this is the time for prayer. But my time is being eaten up, my activities. Then the question is, suppose you did not do this, what would you have done? There's a Hindi, they say, kaun sa jang jeet lete? Which world would you have, or which country would you have conquered? Oh thou the great conqueror. Wouldn't have done anything, you just wasted your time in nonsense, stuff and nonsense which have wasted decades of our lives. Now here is the divinity present in our lives, in whichever form, whichever tradition you have. In Trinity they were showing me how in the church there are the monks in the old days before it became a university. So 5 times a day they would have to turn up for prayer in the church. Now one might think, how boring. What would you have done if you didn't go? You played maybe on Twitter or Facebook or something. It's first and foremost, it saves you from a lot of nonsense and connects you to God. Another advantage of Bhakti. First advantage, you can start straight. Anybody can start straighter. Another advantage, the results are immediate. Results are immediate. Somebody asks, do you want to be happy? Yes. Right now? Yes. And endlessly so? Yes. And increasingly so? Yes. Fall in love with God. With God. Fall in love with human beings, you'll suffer. See, even falling in love with human beings gives the greatest joy known to human beings. But it's also mixed with suffering. Why? Because the human side of it will make you suffer. But fall in love with God, it is all joy. There's no suffering involved. And it will all keep on increasing. Immediately happy, forever happy, increasingly so, fall in love with God. Internally, genuinely. But I can't. You can't force somebody to fall in love with somebody. Alright, that's true, you cannot. However, what you can do is simulate it. We all understand what it means by falling in love. Now, read about God. Whatever you're a Christian, read about Jesus. Read about Mary. If you're a Hindu, Vaishnavite, read about this vast literature about Krishna. Devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, read about Sri Ramakrishna. You begin to know. Look at the iconography. Visit the holy sites. Spend some time there. Listen to the music associated with that tradition. You will fall in love. Don't think that you are so hard-hearted. These are all technologies devised over centuries and millennia by very wise people to make us fall in love with God. It's not very difficult at all. You try and you will. Keep it private. Keep it private. In Bengali there is a saying, I don't know if there is a corresponding saying anywhere. It says, Yato Gupta Tato Pokta. The more secret you keep it, the deeper it becomes, the more nourished it becomes. So this is for our most private ideas, cherished ideas. That is something very close to my heart. The more I keep it close to my heart, the more nourished it becomes. The more I talk about it, the more loose and more diluted it becomes. So it is immediate. You can fall in love with God. Third advantage. Of all the paths, Bhakti, the love of God, is dearest to God. God will help us in whichever path of spirituality we want to progress, but especially in Bhakti. Just like any human being, if somebody loves you dearly, and you know that, it's very difficult to refuse such a person. Similarly, if you love God, of all beings, all can be ungrateful. One thing that God is not is ungrateful. I remember this senior monk of our order, very high in our monastic hierarchy. All his life, he would go and decorate the icon, the image of Sri Ramakrishna in the temple in our main monastery with flowers. So one day I pulled his leg. He was our teacher. I asked him, Swami, you're so high in our hierarchy, and you're a great scholar. He's a great scholar of Vedanta. And this is a job that we do as beginners. Clean the temple and put flowers here. Why do you do it? He does it at 3 a.m. in the morning. Dead of the night he'll go and collect flowers for the shrine and then decorate the shrine and all of that. I asked him. I still remember till today his expression with tears in his eyes. This very senior monk, he said, my belief is if one does the least thing for the Lord remembers. The Lord is not ungrateful. If you have the occasion, in a holy place, in a temple, in a church or something, render some service, if possible with love and tears. This is all that I can do. Do it, you will see the results all your life. God notices. If we listen to lots of YouTube talks and sit and meditate a lot, that's all right, God will be happy. Good, go on. But if you turn to God and look at God and weep for God, God also turns and looks at you. So devotion, this is a path that is specially dear. All paths are good. This is a path of love, of devotion, especially dear to the Lord. Then another advantage. This is psychologically very satisfying. It's very sweet. The other path, whether it's meditation, doing good works for others, or even a spiritual, philosophical inquiry, what we did yesterday, it can be demanding and a little dry, a little austere. Good intellectual exercises, but very difficult to sustain. Suppose someday, at our level, suppose someday you say, I don't feel like it. Then what do you do? But there is no such, never it is that you don't feel like love. The very idea of love is feeling. It will pull you. Even if I don't feel like for turning up for prayer, for meditation, the fact that I'm connected to the Lord. The Lord expects me, so I'll turn. Bhakti. In the remaining time, let me now go into actual bhakti practices. There are many, many of them, and I'll talk about some of them. And we all have, many of us are actually already devotees of God, so we have our own practices. But let me talk of some of them. One powerful practice is the lives of other devotees. Often, there is a saying about children. Children do not listen, they imitate. We are also like children. In spiritual life, we are children. So you can give us lectures by the dozen, by the hour. It is very little that we will remember and even less that we will follow. But if I have an inspiring picture before me, an inspiring life before me, if I see it, I will imbibe it automatically, helplessly so. To some extent I will be inspired. So suppose I am not fortunate enough to see such holy lives, but I can read about them. I can visualize them in my mind. Notice where we are. So St. Francis School. So St. Francis is one of the most beloved of saints in Catholic Christianity. He is certainly maybe my most beloved saint in Christianity. There's so many stories. There's a book I would strongly recommend to you, not just for Christians, for Hindus, anybody who is on the path of devotion. The Little Flowers of St. Francis. Little Flowers. It's one of my favorite books to read it. The stories are inspiring stories. Here is one story. St. Francis himself was actually a noble man. A rich merchant's son actually. And then he became a monk and led the most austere, prayerful life. And as St. Francis began to be known in that small town of Assisi, a very rich nobleman of Assisi wanted to see if this is a genuine lover of God. So he invited St. Francis to his house and said, have dinner with me and stay over tonight. And we'll see. Tomorrow in the morning you can go back to your church. So St. Francis agreed. And the rich man provided dinner, they had food, and then St. Francis went straight to his room and lay down on his bed and started snoring. He knew this man was watching him. So but he didn't give up. This man didn't give up, he kept on watching. As the house fell silent in the dead of the night, St. Francis got up and looked around. He thought nobody was watching. Immediately he got down on his knees and started praying. I think it was, Lord Jesus, have mercy upon me. On and on and on till dawn. When everybody was beginning to get up, he quickly jumped on his bed and started snoring, pretending to sleep again. And this man, he said, this is a genuine saint. And next day he went to him and said, I want to become a monk and give up everything. So, and then he became one of the first disciples of St. Francis. This is a story. Like this, it's full of wonderful stories. Once when his group, now you know the Franciscan order is all over the world. Once when the Franciscan order was beginning to grow, later on in the history, there's a beautiful story where one of the brothers, one of the monks, he was a little curious why everybody runs after St. Francis. He said to St. Francis, why you? You are not the most noble, not from the noblest family. There are other monks here who have come from very noble families. You are not very rich. You are not very learned. There are others more learned than you. You are not even very good speaker. Others are better speakers than you. You are not even very good looking. Other monks are there who are more good looking than you. Why you? Then St. Francis, he goes into a kind of ecstasy. And then he comes down and he catches hold of that monk. Brother, you are right. I am the least among you. I am not good to look at. I am not a good speaker. I am not as learned as some of us. And so on and so forth. But God just revealed to me. Why me? He says, it is because with the least of men, with the smallest, the humblest of men, God can accomplish the greatest things. It is that God's glory will shine forth more and more with the least learned, least good looking, least oratorical powers. I am very ordinary compared to you all. And that's why God has chosen. It's a great lesson. Why you? Like this, the whole thing is full. It's St. Francis. One of the great practices in Hinduism is the form of God. It's the form of God. That's why in Hinduism we have so much iconography. So, various depictions of the form of Vishnu, of Shiva, of Devi. You can see, we have photographs, of course. So the form of God is an object of meditation. Sometimes people would come to Sharada Devi and say, I can't meditate. And she would say, then just look at the picture of Thakur, of Sri Ramakrishna. Just sit quietly and look at it. That's as sustained, if you look at it in a sustained way, that's as good as meditation. It will actually be meditation. It's a form of God. There's a very beautiful ancient story about this, 1,000 years ago. In the life of Sri Ramanujacharya, the great master of Vishishta Advaita Vedanta. So the story goes like this. So at that time, Ramanuja lived for a long time, I think 120 years. So at that time already Ramanujacharya was well established. He was in this place, temple town called Srirangam. There is a huge temple of Vishnu, of Ranganath Swami there. So this Ramanuja was there with many of his disciples, highly regarded as this saintly and scholarly master of qualified monism, school of Vedanta. Now it was a festival day, and festival days, especially South Indian, the grand old temples of South India, so there will be processions. And the main image of God, of course, cannot be moved. It's very big. It's inside the sanctum sanctorum of the Garbha Mandir. But there's a tradition of Utsava Murti. So the image which is used in festivals. So the images are carried out, small images, in procession, large processions, thousands of people chanting, offering, waving incense, praying. So the huge crowd will gather and the procession is done sometimes around the temple, sometimes around the temple town outside procession. So one of these occasions, festive occasion, Ramanuja was there with all his disciples, this venerable old master. There was a commotion in one corner of the crowd. What was going on? And apparently, one young man, a powerfully built young man, was standing there, and he was holding a umbrella. In those days also, that means they had umbrellas. Probably they were bamboo umbrellas. Over a young woman, and staring at her continuously. And people were taken aback. What kind of behavior is this in the middle of a holy day in a temple? And Ramanuja noticed that, and he told one of his disciples, call that young man. And they were all mortified. Why would the revered master take notice of this lout? And so they go and say, hey you, Ramanujacharya, Sri Ramanuja has summoned you, come with us. And so this young man quietly put down the umbrella and he walked and came to Ramanujacharya. And Ramanuja asked him, who are you? And why are you looking at that girl? Everybody's looking at the Lord, the procession. And he said, I am Dhanurdasa, he's a wrestler, a very powerfully built young man. I am a wrestler, I am Dhanurdasa. And that girl is Hemamba, and she has the most beautiful pair of eyes in the universe. That's why I'm looking at her. And you can imagine the horror of the monks and devotees surrounding Ramanuja. How can he speak like this in front of Ramanuja? But Ramanuja was completely unruffled. He said, if I were to show you an even more beautiful pair of eyes, would you be interested? And Dhanurdasa said, sure. Then come in the evening at the time of Vespers, Arati, into the temple, into the deepest part of the temple, where the image of Vishnu is there, the reclining image of Vishnu is there in the temple. Come there. Will they let me in? Ramanuja said, tell them that I asked you to come. Dhanurdasa said, fine. And then he went back, picked up the umbrella over the head of that girl and then walked out. In the evening he came and he entered. Now in the traditional old temples, the innermost shrine, the Garbha Mandira, is dark. It's lit up only by occasional oil lamps. So in the Arati, the evening Vesper services, the priest waves the lighted lamp illumining the deity. And since the deity is big, what you do is you wave it before the face of the deity, illumining the face of the deity with the light of that lamp, illumining the chest of the deity, the feet of the deity, like that. And there's a certain number of times you do. If you see Arati will be performed here today. We do it with lamp and all. So it's done like that. Now, when the lamp light fell on the face of Vishnu, it's a big image, face of Vishnu illumining in that darkness. Ramanuja suddenly caught hold of the hand of Dhanurdasa and said, "Look, the most beautiful pair of eyes in the universe." And Dhanurdasa looked, and the image came alive for him. He looked into the face of God. Every hair in his body stood on end. And he went into samadhi, into ecstasy. And Ramanuja also went into samadhi, to the astonishment of the gathered priests. Afterwards, Dhanurdasa became a great devotee, well known among the devotees of Ramanujacharya, Dhanurdasa, and the girl whom he married, Hemamba. This couple became one of the most spoken about stories. The stories and stories about them, about the extent, the greatness of their devotion to God. So this is the form of God. The form of God. The fact is, these forms are all conceived of by us. Saints tell us about it, what they have experienced in visions, and then artists make pictures or images out of it. But you don't actually see it until you are blessed by an experience like that. But until that time, you don't actually see it. But we have something else which belongs to God directly. We have got it. That is the name of God. Nama. Second practice is, even more important than the form of God, is the name of God. So the story goes, at the time of the creation of the universe, there was a division of property between man and God. God said, from now on, here is the universe. Go into the universe. But I will be hidden. My form is withdrawn. You won't be able to see me anymore. But I shall leave with you my name. The name I will leave with you is not an imagined name. It's really my name. With that name, you will get my company. But you will not see me anymore. So now you have the practice of the name of God. And that is a common practice in all the theistic religions of the world. Why just theistic religions? In Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, continuous repetition of mantras. Om Mani Padme Hum, and many other mantras. In the theistic religions, in Christianity, in Islam, in Hinduism certainly, repetition of the names of God. What your tradition tells you. So I just mentioned 1,000 names of God, 1,000 names of Vishnu. Or your guru may give you a mantra with the name of God. What happens when you repeat the name of God with devotion, when you call upon God with the name, repeating the name of God? Maybe you are whispering it or in your mind only. Just as when somebody calls your name, what do? Yes, you respond. God responds when we call out His name. God listens. So, this name of God is the connection between us and God. The Vaishnavas, devotees of Vishnu, they give a tremendous emphasis on this practice, repetition of the names of God. How are we to pray? How are we to express our love of God? One way is to lovingly repeat the name of God. Keep God consciously, alertly, not mechanically. Mechanically also if you do it, that's not bad. But the more consciously, with attention we can do, the better. Repeat the names of God. Japa, in our tradition, in the Ramakrishna Vivekananda tradition we belong to, this repetition of the names of God is a central practice. The Guru initiates the disciple into a holy or sacred mantra and shows the disciple how to meditate on the form of God and repeat the name of God. So, repetition of the mantra, repetition of the name, that's another extremely powerful practice. In Christianity, one of the books that I love most from the Eastern Orthodox Church, The Way of the Pilgrim. It's a very favorite book of the Eastern Orthodox, Russian Orthodox Church, or Greek Orthodox Church, where this young man, a Russian, he goes on a journey, but he repeats the Jesus prayer. Lord Jesus, have mercy upon my soul. And he repeats it continuously. Now the book is written in a meditative style. The prayer is going on and different kinds of adventures happen to this, our hero. And he goes through life like that. If you just read it itself, your mind will be cleansed, you will feel the presence of God, you will feel peace in your mind. So repetition of the names of God, very powerful. The Vaishnavas, they give great importance, most importance. They have a concept of nama aparad, an offense against the holy name. What is an offense against the holy name? To consider any other practice as equal to or superior to repetition of the holy name. They will say, All your philosophy, Brahman, Atman, self-inquiry, all that is good. You keep it aside. No point does it match the repetition of the mantra. All your rituals, your puja, your temple going and whatever you do, externally, physically, those are good. Secondary, most important practice, repetition of the name. All your pilgrimages, your fire worship, fire rituals, yajnas, whatever rituals you do, all of them are good. All secondary. Central practice, highest practice is repetition of the names of God. Or repetition of the mantra which you have got. So I think this way they exhort. They are very beautiful things. If you read the Vaishnava devotional scriptures, even as non-dualists, you can learn a lot and be inspired. For example, I mentioned the form of God and seeing the face of God in the land. There's a beautiful Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I think, a text of Vaishnava Vedanta, devotion. One verse I still remember which says about the evening arati, the evening worship of God. It's in the evening, at the change of the day, you will find in every theistic religion some kind of beautiful ceremonies there. At Trinity, I attended even song. The songs which are sung at the end of the day. When darkness descends, you gather and sing in the praise of the Lord. So there is a set of songs which you sing. Similarly, in Hinduism we have Arati. The Vaishnavas say, Hari, Vishnu, Narayana, when you worship Narayana, Lord, God, Vishnu, and you have an image, and you are waving the light before them. Imagine a dark inner sanctum of an ancient 1,000-year-old temple. There are many such, especially in the south of India. And you are worshipping, and it says that when the light of that lamp illumines the face of the deity, look upon with devotion on the face of Hari, of Narayana, illumined in the light of the Arati lamp, and the sins of 100 lifetimes are washed away. Once if you do, with devotion. So, I mean, it's exaggeration, but it inspires. It creates tremendous devotion in you. So in this way. Another practice is Leela. We run out of time. Leela is this. So, thinking about the places associated with God, especially it works if it is an incarnation. I'll tell you our own example, what we do. So I was in our main monastery in Belur Math. How many of you gone to Belur Math? Oh, quite a few. So you don't know what I'm talking about. There is the main temple of Sri Ramakrishna there. So I spent more than 10 years there. And the morning routine of all the monks there is that before or after breakfast, you go out to the temples and you bow down to the temples. Now, having done that mindfully for year after year for more than a decade, now every step of I can sit here in Dublin or there in Manhattan in New York. I can sit quietly and then I can go on that journey. Starting with the main, I can right now visualize it. I can see the temple clearly. I can even feel the cool stone beneath my bare feet. I can feel the touch of the marble steps when I bow down on my forehead. I can feel the coolness of the marble. Like I can look up and open my eyes and see the image of the Lord there. So, and I circumambulate, I bow down, I chant the mantras, then I quietly, mindfully walk down on the bank of the Ganga. You go to the temple of Ma Sharada, and that is also very vivid, going there, bowing down, chanting the mantras, circumambulating it, going to the temple of Swami Vivekananda, the place where the monks, the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna were cremated after they fast, and the monks are cremated when they fast. You come back to the temple of Swami Brahmananda, and you complete the whole circuit. Step by step. Every step is remembered, because you have done it for 10, 12 years. Revered Swami Chetananandaji, who has written so many wonderful books on Sri Ramakrishna, Masharada, Swami Vivekananda, the direct disciples. So he says it's his meditation. He sits quietly, he goes in St. Louis, in America. He's been there, recently completed 50 years of his stay there. He sits there quietly And in his mind, he goes to Vibhuti, the main monastery. He goes to the temple of Kali, Dakshineshwar, Sri Ramakrishna worship Kali. He goes to the birthplace of Sri Ramakrishna, Kamarpur, the birthplace of the Holy Mother Jairambati. He goes to Mother's house, the Kashipur, where Sri Ramakrishna passed away. And completing the whole circuit, maybe an hour or so, he's back to St. Louis. It's so vivid. And each of the places is clearly visualized, and he has a wealth of knowledge of stories and anecdotes, what happened there. What did the Lord do? And this you can do in every religion, especially the religions which worship incarnations. You can do in Christianity. You can certainly do in Hinduism, where you have the doings of the Leela, the divine play of the Lord. It's the meditation. It's a much easier meditation than what is the weakness of the mind? I mean, fall asleep. It's a much easier, much sweeter meditation. And you will see at the end of the meditation, mind is cleansed, you have peace and joy in the mind. At least for a while. You are dwelling. Where do you dwell? You don't dwell when you are sitting. When Swami Chaitanya is doing that meditation, he is not in St. Louis. He is in Belur, he is in Dakshineshwar, he is in Kamarpur, he is in Jairambati. You are where your mind is, especially in the spiritual world. Then another, let me mention one more and stop. There are many, so many beautiful practices. One more practice is Vibhuti, the glories of God. This is in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The whole of the 10th chapter is this practice. Vibhuti, the glories of God. Connect all the beautiful things, powerful things, great things that you see in nature and society to God. Here, Lord, is your glory, the sun, the sky, the ocean. Over the last 100 years or so, our faith in God has been receding, what Nietzsche called the death of God. Another poet called the sad, slow sound of the receding sea of faith. I don't know if it's Eliot or Yeats or who said it, I've forgotten. We had it in school. But what we have replaced faith in God with is nature. Notice, over time, in the last 100 years, we have been trying to fill up the hole left by God. The gap left by God in the human psyche. We've been trying to fill it up with nature, activism in nature, protect nature, or by art, worshipping art and artists. The same societies which worshipped saintliness earlier, now worship creativity. Who are the new heroes? Not the saint this or saint that. No. Somebody who wrote this, made that film, made the latest TikTok video, it's come down to that level now. So, creativity, we worship creativity, we worship art, we worship, secular society. The tendency to worship is there. You may have gotten rid of God, but people don't read the whole passage which Nietzsche wrote. They just read the death of God. And he says, then he goes on, what will happen after the death of God? When you lose faith in God, Nietzsche treated no less than Nietzsche. He says, humanity will be confronted with the rotting divine carcass. What is the rotting divine carcass? This society. The remnants, the ruins of faith, the ruins of religion. You cannot sustain it anymore, the ruins are left here. And then we will confront our, regicide is killing the king. Deicide, he says. We'll realize the penalty for the crime of killing God. Of course, you haven't killed God. You killed God in our own hearts, that's all. And that's what we are suffering from. But Gita, all that long ago, it says, alright, you love nature. You love good creativity. You love all that is powerful and excellent in society. In secular society, good. Connected to God. And the 11th chapter of the Gita says, among all the mountains, I am the Meru. Among all the rivers, I am the holy river Ganga. Whatever is beautiful and holy and sublime in nature, instead of just enjoying nature for the sake of nature, connect it to the divine. My Lord, thou art unseen, but I see you in the setting sun. I see you in the amazing colors in the clouds when the sun is setting. I see you in the storm and the rain and the beautiful bright sunlight in blue sky. I see you in the smile of the baby. I see you in nature, in human society. In all those are good and great. In all their great actions, in creativity, whatever it is. When they compose works of art and literature and all, that all is divine, it comes from thee. And my attention goes back to the source, to God, not to stay there. Even nature can be clawing after some time. How many sunsets will you see? How many mountains will you climb? How many flowers will you admire and write poems to? Nothing in nature can fill the gap left by God. But you can take nature as a stepping stone, directing our attention back to God. Krishna says, the lights in the sky, the sun and the moon, those are, I am the sun among the luminaries, and so on. So Vibhuti, whatever is glorious in nature and in human society, whatever attracts you, connect it immediately to God, as the glory of God, and the attention is back to God again. I was joking that other day, the poet speaks about the God-shaped hole in the human psyche. We have a gap. We are missing God. The God-shaped hole in the human psyche. And the joke is, the Buddhists, remember the emptiness people who say it's all void, the Buddhists filled up the God-shaped hole with the hole-shaped God. Zero. Anyway, we've run out of time. This greatest of gifts, the love of God. Desire makes us unhappy. But unhappiness for the sake of God is greater happiness than all the worldly happiness. One saint, I think it's Namdev or Tukaram, one of them says, even the tears that I shed for God are 1,000 times more pleasurable than the greatest pleasures in the world. It's literally true. If you cry for God also, that's more pleasurable than all the laughter in the world. So, may this great, great gift of God, we pray for that, for all of us. There's a song which Ramakrishna used to sing, that God is saying, I do not stint in giving mukti, moksha, liberation. You want enlightenment, you want to realize you are Brahman and be free of samsara? I'll give it to you easily. But I don't give love easily. I'm stingy about giving love. So we want that. And by the grace of God, may we feel the love of God in our hearts. Once we feel it, it will never go off. It will keep on increasing. Keep it private, nourish it, fan the flames. Lives will be transformed here and now. Realization of God. Non-dual realization. I am Brahman. I can tell you this also. People say that, what about that? Is it possible without self-inquiry, without realizing that I am not the body, not the mind, I am the witness of the body and mind, the 10th man, and all of that which we did yesterday? Yes, without any of that, directly one can realize that I am Brahman by the grace of God. It can so happen. It has happened. It has happened. Persons who, seekers of God, intensely praying to God and repeating the name of God, just repeating the name of God intensely for a period of time, not so long, suddenly have the breakthrough of realization, not of God, not the vision of God, non-dual Brahman, I am that. It becomes absolutely clear. And then all these non-dual texts and everything will speak to you. They will open up, they will be luminous for you. You see, I am seeing what they are talking about all the time, effortlessly. But that came by the grace of God, not really by your own effort. So, somebody asked Swami Shivananda, one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, here are two goals it seems. One is, at the point of death, I will be one with Brahman, limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, and stay in that infinity forever. I will lose my individuality. I will remain as that infinity. That's one goal it seems to be. The other goal seems to be, after death, I shall go to heaven and stay with God, with Sri Ramakrishna, eternally in the bliss of the company of God. Christian heaven, many kinds of ideas of Hindu heaven, Islamic heaven, whatever it is, spiritual heavens. Stay there. Which one? Which one should I pursue? Swami Shivananda said two things. First he said, jar jamon bhav. Whatever your spiritual attitude is, what appeals to you, pursue that, you will get that. Both are equally good. That's the first thing he said. Then he said, but you know, if you listen to me, that's a warning. If you listen to me, leave it to Sri Ramakrishna. You do your spiritual practices, pursue it. What do you understand of these things? These are very crude human conceptualizations of something that really passes understanding. So we don't know enough to make a choice. You approach God in all possible ways, whatever appeals to you. Then what will happen to you? Will you get a non-dual realization and liberation and moksha? Or will you get a dualistic realization, the vision and the perpetual presence and peace of God? Both are extraordinary. That is, leave it to the wisdom of the Lord. With that, let me do a peace chant with prayers that may that grace be showered upon us. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you, Swami. I thought I don't have any questions, but just a request actually. Swamiji, you have done so much towards expounding on Myanmar, thousands of hours of YouTube lectures, really transformational. But your talks, which are relatively few on Bhakti, are even more touching and transformational. And that's my humble request that why don't you do the amalgamation of the incident you talked about from the Himalayas, Vishnu Sahasranam, in your talks for our benefit. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a rare request. But I remember when, after a few years in New York, I gave a talk on Bhakti. It's called Way of Love. And there was a comment by somebody, the YouTube. You too, traitor? The idea was, we thought you are a non-dualist. Yeah. And here you are again talking about all that God stuff and devotion and Bhakti. And what you said, I remember a senior monk whom I respect very much. He told me once, he says, all this you are doing, non-dualism, the way of knowledge, stop it. You are not a non-dualist. You are a devotee at heart. So maybe it will happen. Then maybe go to the other extreme.
Pranam Maharaj, I'm Shambhu. If someone joins the Ramakrishna family, initially he or she will feel that food play a critical role in all our discussion. I think you have also mentioned or inquired a number of times whether you people have good food or not, kind of thing. When I also joined Narendrapur in '94, initially I used to offer pranam to all the Maharaj at the back end of my mind that Maharaj will give me some chocolates. And I think this is the same story every center. So whenever we visit any center, Maharaj will ask me that this prasad payejo. Now my question, is there any relationship between the path of bhakti and the seva? Because the same sadhu who is in the path of bhakti is actually ensuring the thought of jive dayanai shiva gyane jivo seva, and I think ensuring that the seva part is ensured. So my question is there any relationship between bhakti and seva?
The food question. Now, I think it comes from a motherliness. I've seen many of the monks, over time, spiritual life, you do develop a motherly attitude. Motherly in the sense, in the best possible sense. You want them not only to be spiritually well, but also emotionally well, and down to physical well. And there is a joy in feeding others. I think it comes from the Holy Mother herself. She would ensure that everybody was well fed. It was a kind of a blessing, in that sense. Not that food is a central practice. Though it may seem like that sometimes. Yes, thank you.
Namaskar. My name is Shiva, and history has just repeated. Whenever a question arises, you either dissolve the question in subsequent classes, discourse or Q&A, or I get a solution, I get an answer. So his question and your answer took care of the request I had. But the question I have about Bhakti is that somehow it doesn't seem sad when God answers prayers, because in most cases it's a zero-sum game. Let's just assume I'm a student. I pray, and because of praying, I get 5 extra marks. There are so many other students who have genuinely worked for it, and I pick them and get the first rank or the second rank. I somehow find that that's not fair.
It is, because you have worked plus you have prayed. So, there must be a payoff for the prayer. But here is the point. The bhakti that we are talking about must be carefully distinguished from the bhakti that is very common in mass religion. In mass religion, there is a kind of devotion which is common, Hinduism, Christianity, every theistic religion, where we use God for our worldly advantage. Cure my illness. Give me some worldly advantage, money or success in examinations and so on, all of that stuff. So, that kind of bhakti is not bad, but it's not spirituality. It's not meant for enlightenment or God realization. It's God for my life. Spirituality is when it's my life for God. Here the goal is marks, examination, or somebody has an illness, the curing of the illness. That's the goal. Maybe God can help. That's why in hospitals you see there are always weekly prayer rooms. Yeah. And there used to be a saying, people in Ireland know better. In the First World War, so many young people died. This is the saying that there are no atheists in the trenches. In the trenches, when there is shelling going on, you can't be an atheist. Even the atheists will start praying to God. But that's for a worldly advantage. Let me be safe. But now, the saints, the mystic, in Christian tradition, in Hinduism, everywhere, they are not praying for their worldly advantage anymore. What are they praying to God for? For God. Let me see you. Let me feel your presence. Do not deprive me of your presence. That's common too. Whether it's a Christian mystic, a Muslim mystic, a Hindu mystic, all of them, they're praying to God for that. That is the kind of bhakti we're talking about.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Come.
What I thought I was going to say is something else.
Tell us your name.
Julia. Yeah. And it's about devotion, and I find it kind of a difficult one actually, because I get hit over the head with it. And I know I have a Western mind. I'm from Ireland, and I came up with very Catholic, devout parents and all that, and left the Catholic Church. I didn't become a lapsed Catholic. I left it very definitely when I was about 19 and 20. I remember doing a mass one day. I was first year in this town actually. And it took me almost right to not walk out of the church, and I never went back, and reading and patriarchal and all the kind of Western female responses, probably pretty typical. And I remember I was about 28, and what's striking me here, and I find it hard not to cry, is everything about Jesus. Of course, baby went out with the bathwater, and over the years I was slowly taking back the baby and finding it's the same, like being in the caves in our own Machala and Advaita with Amma and Vibhuti, and the tears rolled down my face. But I have still a rejection and a resistance. It's not to Jesus actually, but a kind of almost an embarrassment.
Yeah.
And when I was 28, my cousin, I was living in Berkeley, California, my cousin came out to visit. He was a couple years older than me, and he was a Catholic priest. I thought I'd do the decent thing, even though I was much too cool to go to Mass, I thought. And I went to Mass with him. And then the Eucharist, it was that Eucharist moment, this is my body, this is my blood, I was completely overcome. I was so embarrassed I wanted the ground to open up, because the tears started flowing, I couldn't walk out, so I was sobbing. And that was my first, I suppose, experience since I was younger of real devotion. And it was pure love. But I couldn't take it on, because I had too much anger, actually. So I have this kind of thing of, is devotion And like here, there are a lot of people from India. So my conditioning, and the conditioned mind, is one of Christianity. And when you said there, you speak about St. Francis of Assisi, I think, saying, "Oh Lord, have mercy on me," and of course the tears started coming. And I'm going up to Dublin again anyway. But there's a lack of integration.
Yes. Vedanta offers us this integration. That there is one divine reality. This Professor John Hicks, he talks about the religions of the world being like planets circling around a central sun, which is God. Yes, all the religions have light, but none of the light belongs to them. The light comes from the central sun, which is the one divine reality which they are trying to reflect. So, whether it is reflected, whether we worship as Krishna or Christ, in Vaishnava tradition or in Christian tradition, we are looking back towards the source, towards God. Various words can be used. You can say Brahman, you can say Nirguna Brahman. In Vedanta, the range is much more. You begin to see it's not very difficult to understand Christianity from a Vedantic perspective and appreciate it also. But it's difficult to understand Vedanta from a Christian perspective. Other way around is very difficult. So, you can try one of two things. One is, the central thing is keep devotion in your heart. If it works, best is if it works with Christ in a private way. Read the sacred literature of the saints, the lives of the saints, especially the lives of like Saint Francis, Saint Teresa. Have a little private shrine in your house, maybe a personal crucifix or an icon or whatever it is, and pray. Only between you and God. Nobody in between. No church, no Swami, no pastor, nobody in between. You can do that. If that, I don't know you closely, so I'm not aware of all your things, your feelings about the past and your life. If it works, another alternative could be then take up a fresh new ideal of God. Maybe Krishna or Ramakrishna and then direct your attention there. The freshness has an advantage. The disadvantage is from your childhood and from your whole cultural background, it's an enormous conditioning. It's good if you can use that conditioning. It can be a great base for a personal spiritual life. Have nothing to do with whatever bothers you. Because after all of that, organized religion is to help us towards God. It has no other purpose. Thank you. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Hi, Swami. My name is Leela. I wanted to just say thank you so much. My question is, once you've experienced yourself as everything, it's difficult to then go back to the idea of the conceptual God, like whether that be Krishna or Jesus or any other thing. How do you make yourself do that?
Yes. Once you have experienced yourself as Brahman, as literally the reality of everything, then why, how can you and why would you go back to the idea of God? You know, whether it's God in heaven or God as incarnation, it's because of this.
No, my question is, you are suggesting going back to this idea, if you need to purify yourself, which I believe that I do in many different ways, but I also have experienced myself deeply as everything. So when I try to conceive of Jesus, I understand that it's a very helpful idea for people, but I also understand that Jesus is you, me, everybody in this room. It's one being. So
I understand. If you don't need it, you don't need to go back.
It's okay to worship everything.
Yes. If
that's what I do. Everything is beautiful.
Right. If you feel the divinity in everything, stay with it. Why do you need multiple conceptions of God and divine? But I'm sure about it. However, you hear me out. What you're talking about is the top of the hill. But hear me out about what lies on the other side of the hill.
But definitely not at the top of the hill in terms of I'm still trying to purify.
That's why
you are top of the hill.
And neither me, but that's why I'm saying this. Mm-hmm. Notice, even after our clarity that, the awareness in me, the awareness, and the same awareness in all beings, we are one at that level. And yet, after that, I still continue to function as this person. It's not untrue that I continue to walk and talk and hold a job and relate to other people and go through life. So the individuality continues. Individuality doesn't disappear in the flash. It's not that the body vanishes in a puff of smoke or in a burst of light or something, But you're still the person. If I'm still the person, I can also relate to the cosmic. To the cosmic, to God.
Yeah.
Yes, I know I'm everything, but at this level I'm an individual also. That's also true. Because I walk and talk and I have an identity as an individual. It's just that I'm an individual with a realization of the spiritual wholeness or oneness. What might be called the living free. In that case, as an individual, why can I not relate to God? God is the cosmic, the power behind this whole, and you are the one, the individual. And you and the all, one and the all can have a relationship.
I come as a power, as a frequency, but not as a being, because I understand that to be a
Sure.
question.
Let me just give you the story which Sri Ramakrishna loved in this kind of question. He would have probably told this story. Hanuman. He asked, Rama asked Hanuman, that a great devotee, what do you think of me? How do you understand me? What is your understanding of God? Basically, that's what he's asking. And Hanuman replied, as this body, I am the servant, you are my master. As this soul, you are the all, I am your part. I am a part of you. But as pure consciousness, pure being, you and I are one, literally the same thing. So what is your conclusion? These three are my conclusion. In Sanskrit, Deha Buddhya Dasoham, as identified with the body, I am your servant. I am Hanuman, your servant. Straightforward. Jiva Buddhya Tadam Shaka. But I have not always been Hanuman. In earlier lives I was something else. And in future if there is something else, I went to something else. I am this subtle body, the Jivatma. In that sense, I am your part, you are the whole. And the third one, Atma Buddhya Tvameva iti me nishchitamati. As the Atman, as pure consciousness, as the core of my being, you and I are one reality. This is my conviction. It's the most sort of complete conviction about God. In the first you have dualism, Dvaita. In the second one you have Vishishta Dvaita, part and whole. In the third one you have non-dualism.
Thank you. That's a great answer. Thank you so much.
Come.
Pranam Maharaj, I'm Raymond, I'm from Cork actually. I have 3 questions actually.
Oh, 3. Start with one.
Okay, the first one is related to the first session in Maya actually. You just said that Swami Vivekananda told that this Maya is like a dream actually. Okay, either you wake up from the dream or you make a dream very positive, happy, such that you are helping the humanity in everything.
And you're full of love.
And you're full of love. So this second part where it comes under the 3 gunas, that's the Sattva guna. And it is said that as per Vedanta Sara, Maya is also in that 3 gunas actually.
Yes.
Tamas, Rajas and Sattva. So I didn't understand. In that case, the person cannot attain moksha, right? Because
you can eventually he will attain moksha. Because the way to moksha, liberation, is through Sattva guna. Sattva guna itself is not moksha. Sattva is pure, holy, good, loving, ethical, calm. So that is sattvic mindset, sattvic life. And that's the doorway to enlightenment. From a very tamasic, dark, lazy, inertia, brutish life, it's very difficult to become enlightened all of a sudden. From the restless, dynamic, greedy, ambitious, reaching out to the worldly kind of grasping mindset, again difficult to become enlightened. But from a sattvic mindset, it's easier to become enlightened. So transform the dream into a sattvic dream, and the door of enlightenment will open up.
okay, but in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to go beyond those 3 gunas,
Yes.
right?
That's what I also said. I'm in agreement with Lord Krishna.
So it's like this Sattva guna is like the starting step.
Whatever is starting, rajas or tamas, we have to push it to sattva. All three will be present within us to increase the sattva within us, so that it's our way to moksha is clear. The Atman is beyond consciousness, witness consciousness. Atman is beyond the three gunas. It's beyond Maya. That's what it means to go beyond Maya, to realize yourself. If you get stuck in a sattvic mindset, the problem is the mind is always changing. Same sattvic mind at another time will become rajasic and become tamasic. With bad company or bad karma, sattvic mind which we have built up with difficulty over 10-20 years of practice can suddenly become negative, unhappy, sick, dark, tamasic. It can.
The second question is, what's the impact of Maya on Bhakti? I'll just come to that question. I'll just explain more on the question. Some people, like for example, they are following fake governments. They are going to some kind of cults. Some people, they are doing some extreme things in the name of religion or in the name of chanting the God's name. I'm not trying to pinpoint one religion, but there are multiple religions like that. And some people, like due to some, they were initially Bhakti, they were showing a lot of love and devotion to God, but there was situations where they went through one of the worst times in their life, and altogether they became atheists actually. So, is Maya has a strong influence on the Bhakti of a person?
Yes, it's a good question. This is the danger of Bhakti. I've told you the shortcomings of the path of knowledge and the advantage of Bhakti. But there's a danger of Bhakti also. The danger is this. One is sentimentalism. I hear a song or hear a nice story and tears come to my eyes. I become very emotional. And I feel spiritual, but after some time it's just gone. There's nothing there at all. Emotionalism and love are not the same thing. Devotion and emotion are not the same thing. I have seen monks who are very spiritually advanced, great bhaktas, not at all emotional. They were your true well-wishers. Really they were on your side, but they really wanted the best of you. Over time, we realize the people who really love us are those who are our well-wishers, not those who feel a lot of love for us. I might feel a lot for you, but I won't do a single thing for you. That's just because I have lots of feelings. That's not good at all. I want to get credit for my feelings. I felt so bad about this. What did you do? Nothing. I was too busy feeling bad. One of the meanings of bhakti, we think bhakti, love, immediately we think of feelings of love. It is true, but there is something else. The Sanskrit word bhakti, one of the root meanings is bhaj sevaya. It means to serve. It means to do. It's active. Just as when I desire something in the world, I just don't sit feeling about it. I go and buy it. I order it on Amazon. I do something about it. Similarly, if I truly love God, I will do something about it. Either spiritual practices or service or do something. Translate that bhakti into service. Like Vivekananda said, dream but better dreams, which are eternal love and service free. I don't want anything back from you, but I'll do anything for everything for you. Imagine the greatness of that philosophy and the freeing nature. What do you gain out of it? You gain total freedom out of it. The moment I want something back from you or from the world, I'm trapped. Literally, I don't want anything. You can say like that monk, I don't care. Yes.
Yeah. And the third
so another side of this emotionalism can be fanaticism. Notice how it's fanaticism. Notice it is how strange it is. The bhakti religions of the world, I'm not saying one, all the bhakti religions of the world. They are also the religions of fanaticism, of violence and hate. How interesting. Religions of love give rise to hate. Yet it's not strange. It's not difficult to understand. It's the same emotion. The flip side of it is hate. I love these and I hate those. It's easy to do. So bhakti, it can lead to emotionalism, it can lead to superstition, as you said, doing all sorts of crazy things in the name of bhakti. Have you ever thought it through? No, it's been said to me, I will do it. Why? I don't know. I just believe. So, superstition, fanaticism, or just emotionalism. These are the dangers of bhakti. That's why bhakti regulated by reason is necessary. Is this real religion? Was this, as you said, the problem of God-men? A cult. Somebody comes and says, you have to do this practice, you have to be devoted to me, you have to worship me. Our reaction should be, says who? I say so. Who you? What tradition do you belong to? In Hinduism, we have what is called parampara, lineage. Show me 1,000 year, 2,000 year, 3,000, 5,000 year lineage before I sign on. You must show me that this tradition has produced men and women of excellence of character and spirituality for not only centuries but millennia. That's the test. Are you a fly-by-night operator? How do I know these things are true, what you are saying? This is my realization. It doesn't matter. I don't buy your realization. Which is your tradition? What are the texts of the tradition? Who are the great people in your tradition? So, a fly-by-the-night operator, a lone operator, cult, might sometimes be genuine also, but it's dangerous. So it's always better to check and be reasonable about it.
Third question is, how do I find a guru and a guru mantra?
Very easy, talk to the Swami. In our tradition, there are many traditions and many different approaches. So in our tradition, if you are interested, you can talk to us and give it that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your talk, Maharaj.
What's your name?
Devanshu. So I have two short-term questions. One is asking for more of a concrete definition of Maya, in the sense that the way I understood it is, if we look at light is both wave and a particle. It might come as a way for me to be able to see you, but then for a plant, it might come as a photon. Or if we're talking about infinity, the purpose of infinity is to define the uncountable, whether that's big or small. The purpose is just to define the uncountable. So then similarly, Maya, in my head, is Maya then defined by the conditions around it, as in it can be seen as both positive and negative, but it depends on the condition, and then if it is condition-based, can we use bhakti to attain the positive side of Maya? Because obviously Maya has that facet of being positive and allows you to break the cycle of samsara, etc. So then can we use bhakti to condition it towards that level?
Yes, you're right. In fact, the answer is in there in the question itself. One of our Swamis said that I have begun to see questions as bananas. If you peel it carefully, the answer is inside it. So the answer is there in your question. Maya has these two aspects, the positive side and the negative side. What Sri Ramakrishna called the Maya of knowledge, the Maya of ignorance. Vidya Maya, Avidya Maya. So there is the Maya of ignorance, which, yes, I understand that I am the Atman, Brahman, Vedanta tells me that, could be true. But my fact right now is, I am just this guy, I have greed and anger and lust, and I am confused about the real nature of the world, what is my role in it. This is the Maya of ignorance, this state of affairs. Why? On one side, we have signed on saying that yes, I am Atman or Brahman, I think this could be true. And on the other side, we don't feel it at all. It doesn't seem like that at all. What's between it? What's the barrier? There must be something wrong somewhere. That something wrong somewhere is the negative side of Maya, the Maya of ignorance. It is manifested in anger, greed, delusion, hatred, all the problematic emotions. It is manifested even more clearly in ignorance, that I don't know that I am Brahman. I am being told that, I am repeating that, I am reading books, but I don't feel like it. The fact that it could be true, but I don't see it, then there must be ignorance there. There's something I don't know, I am not seeing it at all. So these are the manifestations of the Maya of ignorance. And the Maya of knowledge, the positivity which you said, through bhakti, through meditation, through service, through character building, we are overcoming the Maya of ignorance and taking the help of the Maya of knowledge.
Thank you.
Swamiji, my name is Toby. The question I have is regarding morality, or quote-unquote morality, if we consider that dualistic notions of pleasure and pain, like and dislike, good and bad, are faculties of the mind, discriminating faculties of the mind, and the Atma is beyond the mind, how do we actually ground any morality, any goodness?
Did you come yesterday?
I did.
Did I talk about the grounding morality in Advaita non-duality? Yes. Swami Vivekananda's answer to your question is this. The surest foundation for morality is this non-duality, oneness of all existence. Why should I not harm you or anybody else? I take very good care of myself, or I try to. Why should I not take the same kind of care of you? Because of oneness. Taking care of you is equal to taking care of myself. Harming you becomes equivalent to harming myself. Notice, the one golden rule which you find common, but it's called the golden rule. You find it in all religions of the world in different forms. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The golden rule of all religions. You find it in every form. In Gita, Atmaukam mena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna. Sukham va yadiva dukkham sa yogi paramo mata. Krishna says to Arjuna that yogi is the best yogi, who sees the others as oneself, the sorrow of others as one's own sorrow, the happiness of others as one's own happiness. That yogi is the best yogi. Where does this come from? From the vision of sameness, that I am this one consciousness, and that same consciousness in that body and mind is that person. Literally, as I enjoy and suffer here, there I also enjoy and suffer. There's no difference as far as suffering is concerned. If suffering has to be removed in one body, why? Because it's suffering, it's painful. That's why I remove, no further reason necessary. Then the same suffering has to be removed in other bodies because it's painful. This is, I'm quoting from Shanti Deva. There's a book called Bodhicharya Avatar, where without any talk of God, he brings in this morality. It comes from oneness, of non-duality. If you study ethics, you will find multiple attempts at trying to ground morality. Utilitarian attempts, deontological, teleological, multiple grounds are there. This is the non-dual ground for grounding morality. This has the advantage of grounding it in your own nature. Why should I be selfless? Why should I be non-violent, not harm anybody else? Because that's my nature. I am living according to my real nature when I am moral. If I am immoral, I am going against my real nature, which is the Atma, which is the oneness of the entire universe.
So would it be fair to say that love is sewn into the fabric of reality itself, and it's a question of to what extent that is extended outwards?
Yes. Love is an expression of oneness, non-duality. Non-duality in the realm of emotion or feeling is love. It's an expression of that. So it's truth. Love and truth are sides of the same coin. Yes. In the United Nations headquarters in New York, on the 3rd floor, big stone letters, this is written, the golden rule of all religions. This is in there. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And without mentioning any particular religion, say every religion has this principle in some form or the other. My point is, go further. Where does the golden rule come from? Why would you do unto others as you would have them do unto why would you do unto others as you would have them do to you? Because others are not really others. This is what Vedanta contributes to it. They are really you.
Pranam Maharaj, this is Rajesh. I have one question regarding in all the discussions, like even in the Vedantic inquiry and in the Bhakti, we give special importance to heart. So core of heart and then meditating in the heart. Why is heart given such a special? Why heart is given such a special position in the spiritual practices? And second big question is, Thakur used to say that if you have to visualize God, it is through Bhava Chakshu that you see God, not through the physical eyes. So what is this Bhava Chakshu and how is it different from the eyes and its projection on mind?
So the heart You will find it emphasized in many spiritual traditions, especially the mystic traditions within each spiritual tradition. In Hinduism, in Christianity, in Islam, Buddhism. Why? There are multiple reasons, both psychological and esoteric. The psychological reasons like, we generally tend to identify ourselves like this. I. We now know the brain is thinking and all the activities are now going on in the brain. Neuroscience is revealed. But we never say I or I. We say I. Also, heart is regarded as the seat of emotion. Heart and emotion in our culture, it's tied. We know the brain is from the source where we're getting feelings. But my heart is overflowing. We don't say my brain is overflowing now. No. Feelings we associate with our heart. Third, there's an esoteric reason, multiple reasons for it, but the esoteric reason is, I'll come to the esoteric reason next. Third, let me say, in old psychology, before modern psychology developed, modern neuroscience developed, they thought the seat of the mind is the heart. We now know it's the brain, but they thought the seat of the mind is the heart. And there is something to it. Neuroscience talks about it. Anyway, so that's another reason why we talk about the heart. Now the esoteric reason, which is tantric reason, the chakra where spirituality first blossoms is the heart chakra. So in the spinal cord, they visualize. I'm saying visualize, they actually feel it. The yogis feel it. The opening of the various chakras. That's an entirely different system of spiritual practice and meditation called Kundalini Yoga. So there are 3 chakras below it. But heart, then the throat chakra here, the forehead chakra here, and the top of the head, Sahasrara. So the spiritual journey is from here to here. Below that is worldliness. So the first vision of God is attained when this chakra opens up. That's why the heart chakra is emphasized. Vision of God, enlightenment, in that paradigm of Kundalini, which is not the paradigm of Advaita. That's not what we are talking about.
All the religions also point to it.
Yes, religious point. And Bhav Chakra means we don't see God with these eyes. If we could, then others would also see. We see God in our consciousness, in our mind. At first it may feel like imagination. When we visualize, it's a visualization, it's an imagination. I can imagine Spider-Man or Batman, but you can imagine Shiva also. Are they the same? No, there's a difference. There's a difference between bhava and kalpana. Kalpana means imagination. Bhava, there's no English word for it. You can call it a spiritual attitude. What is bhava? How is it different from imagination? Bhava is grasping at a reality which we don't experience yet. Using the imagination to grasp a reality which is there. It's real, but we don't see it yet. Those who see it have described it to us. We are trying to see it. We are generating a bhava with it. This is definition I'm giving from Abhinavagupta, great Kashmiri philosopher and saint. Whereas kalpana, imagination, is the materials which I've gathered from the world and conceived up in my mind. I put it together and come up with something new. That may or may not exist. So I've imagined the Spider-Man. I've imagined the Batman. And there's really no Spider-Man or Batman. But when I visualize a Shiva or a Durga, it's a bhava I'm generating to grasp a reality which is there, but I don't see it yet. Soon, hopefully, by that process, I will see.
Krishna Sharma, dear devotees, we are at the end of our at least 2 days intellectual and spiritual pilgrimage. Yesterday, someone asked me, so the intellectual pilgrimage is something we can understand, and spiritual pilgrimage is something we can understand. You have clubbed both. Why? I said, yes, there is a point in that. Why? Because some of you, if not all, some of you might have questioned with inquisitiveness. What may I get? Or what will I get from Vedanta retreat? Or probably let me understand the truth of the consciousness of the spirituality from the other traditions. So out of inquisitiveness, like Jignas in Gita language, if you want me to say, I would like to know the different isms, different schools of philosophies and etc. Some of you might have come with that intellectual approach. So from that angle, yesterday I used the word intellectual pilgrimage. Then why it is also a spiritual pilgrimage? Probably if not all, many of you for some time or a major part of the time in the retreat, you forgot about the world and you stopped worrying about the world actually. You didn't bother about your house, you didn't bother about your family, you didn't bother about what is happening in Ukraine or Israel or Ireland, and especially we are getting elections. Election heat is up in Ireland. We didn't bother about anything. Just we were bothering about, or we are trying to think and understand about consciousness or about Maya, non-dualism, Bhakti, and etc. So it's a wonderful satsang. That is a company with the oneself or with the holy self or with the God or whatever. From these two angles, these 2 points I mentioned yesterday, intellectual pilgrimage and spiritual pilgrimage. And from Ramakrishna Vedanta Center, a branch of Belur Math, India, this is the first of its kind. We did this spiritual retreat. So in the August, we had one of a very senior holy monk, Vice President Swami Sarvapriyananda had visited here, and we had a couple of programs. Apart from Ireland, we had in a car and Belfast and all. And after a few days, one more holy monk had come from India. Again, hierarchically is very superior. And again, we had a couple of programs from in Belfast, Danganan visit, of course, and here. So when I arranged couple of programs in just 5 days, it was jam-packed for me as well as for them also. And somewhere I felt, because of the jet lag and change in the weather conditions, food conditions and etc., they were also, it was heavy on them. So when our professor said, few months before when we had a memorandum with the Trinity College, who will be the first speaker we can call when we were discussing the board meeting, he suggested we can probably invite Swami Sarvapriyananda. He can be the right person. Then onwards I started thinking, how can I probably design the program this time after this 2 months visit. Based on the 2 months visits experience, and which was a bit heavy on them, then I thought probably we will go for a retreat, for whole day retreat for 2 days in a place, so that maximum people, for maximum time we can be benefited, and probably which can go a bit deeper. Because many times it could have been arranged. Quite a few invitations have got, like Belfast, Danganan, Cork, Limerick, Galway, all of them. Quite a few people had called me and said, Swami is coming, Sarvapriyananda, why don't we have a talk or some probably a satsanga, why don't you arrange Swamiji like that? I said, yes, one place we go and we have a talk and probably we'll have a group photo or something else. And people will say it was wonderful, etc. And one message or going to house, many times our memory is so quick and it gets washed out. So that's the reason I thought probably this thing or these ideas, if it goes deep, it can bring some effect, it can bring some change in our life. So this is the reason I thought we'll have a spiritual retreat. Here only in the Dublin alone, we will not have any more program. Then the question comes, we have visited our Vedanta center, we know we have got a small place, then again probably 50, 60 people we can accommodate. What to do that? Because always we do our programs there only. So this time I said to our directors and the core volunteers, we will go outside and we will try to make an experiment so that we can put a maximum people, maybe 100 plus, so that for maximum people it can be given a maximum benefit. Because of that, this 2 days retreat was arranged. And of course I conceived and I had that idea and I shared with the volunteers, and only I had one request from them. What is that? These 2 days I want to be delegate. For these 2 days, I also want to be one delegate because he is my teacher where 15-20 years before I was learning few lessons of Vedanta from him. I want to go to again student mode once more. I said for our devotees volunteers, I requested, I want to be delegate. I'll be in the first round listening to the talk and I'll be making notes. And you have to run the show. Definitely the volunteers, they did try and it was wonderful. Like we had a coordinating team, parking team, and registration team. Food serving team, videography, photography, and so on and so on. There are around at least, if not less than 30 volunteers for 2 days, day in and day out they were. Apart from that, almost a month or so we were having our own preparations, all of you. Whoever has organized events will be knowing how difficult it will be. So I thank all the volunteers on the behalf of all the assembled devotees and also on behalf of RVC, Ramakrishna Vedanta Center. I would like to thank all the volunteers for the dedicated services. And one more interesting point is probably this is a mini
Vedanta retreat of Europe, though it is happening in a Dublin or Ireland. Why? Because people across the island, from Cork, Galway, and Northern Ireland, which is from Belfast, people have come. Apart from that, UK, London, Edinburgh, France, Germany, and Austria. So at least these are the few countries from where we have got quite few devotees or delegates or spiritual aspirants. So it was like mini Europe spiritual retreat or a Vedanta retreat, we can say. For the first thing I would like to say is, as you know that we are in Dublin 15, Blanchardstown, near Blanchardstown, Ramkrishna Vedanta Center. In the notepad also I think we have got a website address, we can browse. And we have got weekly classes on Vedanta, and spirituality and meditation. Apart from that we have got Vespers and different type of programs, meditation workshops, then stress management courses and workshops, and spiritual retreats, residential and non-residential, few to mention. So we have got a couple of events, at least every month, some or other event will be their main event, I used to say, apart from regular events. So all will be posted in our website, and you are welcome to visit us irrespective of, we don't have any limitation or from any particular community or particular people. Whoever is interested to study Vedanta or interested in spirituality or meditation or to become a better person, all of you are welcome to our center. Now the one question can be, probably in the slides that I have mentioned, either you are introduced to Vedanta or you are a new person to Vedanta, all are welcome. Now the question can come in, it should have come, or otherwise myself I am injecting in you, or your family people also may be expecting this. Okay, my buddy or my person has gone to Vedanta retreat for 2 days, he has attended Vedanta retreat for 2 days, what change I can expect? What change I can expect? This question can come either in you or in your family people, and especially if you have got adolescent children and young children, they will be thinking from this angle also. So what changes you can expect, or what changes we can think of? Yesterday, if you remember my small pep talk in the inaugural session of the diamonds. Now all of us, we were made to remember or remind that we have got the diamonds, but unfortunately we have forgotten. Now we have got the diamonds. Fine. Then what should be, how it will affect, or how it should affect on our life? Probably I will tell a small story and I will go to the real vote of facts. When we are children, we might have, all of us, we might have experienced in a couple of talks I did give this story. Like in my pre-monastic life or in my student life, I had a younger sister. My father bought 2 dolls. One was white color, the other was pink color. So the 2 dolls were brought and it was given to mother, and mother gave us, okay, your father got a good dolls, one is, both are pretty good dolls, why don't you go and play? Then I said, fine, thank you, and I picked up a pink color doll. Then sister started saying, no, I want pink color doll. Then I said, no, I want pink color doll. Mother said, oh my dear, whether it is a pink color doll or white color doll is doll. It is made up of same material, it costs of same thing. So why do you bother so much? Why do you obsess with either white or pink? And you being a senior or you being elder, why don't you take a bite? I said, no, always you, go along with the sister and you support sister, and it is not fair enough. At least this time not. And I wanted a pink doll, and I took, and then she had to, poor lady, she said, for at least your brother wants this time pink color doll, let him have, so you take white color doll. She always said, oh, you always side your son only, not on me, not with me. Again, we had a tussle, and most of us, we had this childhood experience. Now, we're back now, 25, 30, 40 years, we have been aged. The similar incident might happen in our house with different people. But when we witness that, we laugh at it. We don't get moved, we don't get angry, we don't get any emotional reaction towards it, but just we laugh at it. There is no change externally, probably there is no change, at least notably there is no change on the doll, but our perception, our understanding about the doll has changed. Whether it's a pink color doll or white color doll or whatever, it doesn't make any sense. Doll is a doll just to play that, so it doesn't matter anything. So this is what Maya plays actually. But when we were small, probably our granny or grandma, or grandfather, mother, father, or some elders of the family would have given a big sermon for us. All these things. But we would not have listened. Or even you would not have listened, we would not have understood, or you would not have cared. Why? Because the notion of reality was so much that the doll, the pink color doll, was the alpha and omega of my life. Now it is no more. So when you study Vedanta, when you understand Vedanta, when you put into practice, You may not change, externally, or you may not expect the change, or you can't expect the change in the family, or in the surroundings, or in your house, or in your office, and etc. But you accept it, and you go along with it, but you will not be disturbed. Why? Because you will understand the limitations, you will stop solving many of them, and you will transcend them. So probably this is a message after hearing the 2 days talk you can take. Thank you. On behalf of all the assembled devotees, and personally also, I convey my special thanks to Maharaj because we didn't allow him to recover even his jet lag. So Thursday morning, afternoon he came, and Thursday evening we had a wonderful talk on Sister Vedanta and Swami Sarvapriyananda on the Vedantic perspective in a Trinity. And yesterday we went to Danganan while going Aramag. We visited 2 churches, and Danganan visited our dear Sister Nivedita, Margaret Noble's birthplace. And we came late evening, and night we had again one more volunteers meet. On the Friday, and Saturday, Sunday, we had. So all the 4 days he had a jam-packed program, and with meeting quite few people, and apart from the talks and etc. But still, he gave a wonderful talks, and he took a wonderful journey of Vedanta and Bhakti on these 2 days. Thank you, Maharaj.